guys, I just want to use this video to tell you the basic things that you'll be needing to get this corset right. There is one basic thing you need, very important, basic but important anyway. So it's your half length from the front and your half length at the back. The half length at the front and the half length at the back is not the same. It is the difference between this half length that you will use to create your bust dart. So you need it. You need to get your half length at the back and your half length at the front. Every other thing is the common measurement. Your shoulder to shoulder, your shoulder to nipple, your shoulder to on the bust, your half length at the front, half length at the back, like I said before, and your full length for the corset. So you also be needing your nipple to nipple measurement. So I think these are pretty much the things you need. So see you, let's get started. So we start by drafting the front pattern. We take the full length of the corset, we take our half length in front, mine is 17, we take our shoulder to underbust, shoulder to nipple, and shoulder to shoulder divided by 2. That's going to be our chest line point. I'll make the same markings at the other side. I'm going to connect this with my straight rule. Then the next thing is to mark my 3 inches width and 3 inches depth and use and mark my shoulder to shoulder divided by 2. I'll do this on the chest line too. This is the chest line, the bust line, the under bust line, the waist line, and the hem line or the hip line. So when I'm done, I'll connect this with a straight ruler and also use my slight curve rule to connect my neckline. When I'm done, I'll go ahead and go down by 1 inch and connect this back to the shoulder, to the neck area for my shoulder slant. Also, I'll take the measurement I have there, whatever I have, I'll divide it by 2, come in by ½ inch, connect with my straight rule and use my armhole curve to place it. But then before then, I'll put in my bust divided by 4 on my chest line. My bust divided by 4, I'm going to place it on my chest line, make a mark before connecting with my armhole curve. Okay, after this, next thing I want to do is impute my nipple to nipple divided by 4 on each of these lines that you have here. So my nipple to nipple divided by 2 actually is 4. So I'm going to impute 4 on the hem line, on the waist line, the under bust line. I'm also going to impute it on the bust line. Then I'm going to connect with a straight ruler. When I'm done, I'm going to go down by 1 inch on the hem line and also on the bust line. But before then, I'll take 0.75 inches on both sides of the line at the waist line. And I'm going up by 1 inch here and down by 1 inch at the bust line. Now go ahead and create my dart. At that point, you place your ruler and create it the way I'm creating it. If you've watched my basic bodice pattern, you will know how to do this. And after this, I'm going to impute the remaining measurements. On my waistline, I'll impute my waist divided by 4. I'll make a mark. I'll measure the dart I have there and replace it and make a mark. On my hemline, my hip divided by 4, I'll make a mark. And then I'll connect all these with my ruler. Now for the shoulder dart, I'm going to divide what I have there by 2 and make a mark and connect this to the bust point there like that with my straight ruler. After this, I'm going to go ahead to tighten the bust area, but before then I'll go up by 1.5 inch above the chest line, and that's going to be our new chest line. I'm going to go out 0.5 inch if you like inches. If you like, you go up by 2 inches, but don't make it too high. Then at that point, I'm going to go out by 0.5 inches on both sides of that line. 0.5 inch anyway on both sides of that line, and I'm going to connect it with my straight rule back to the bust point the way that I'm doing it. Now, the next thing I want to do is to connect with my curve rule from that 0.5 inch back to my initial chest line like this, and also do this for the other side towards the armhole like that, and use my free hand to do the connection, the rest of the connection area. So now from my bust point, I'm going to come down by the difference between my front half length and my back half length. This is to create my bust dart. So the difference between your front half length and your back half length is what you're imputing there, and that's 2 inches for me. I'm going to make the bust line visible enough so you see it. The next thing we want to do is to tighten the under bust. You first divide your under bust by 4 and place it here, make a mark, and then measure what you have remaining and divide it into that area. You divide it unequally. I have 1.5, so I'm giving 0.5 towards the part, the folded part, and I'm giving 1 inch towards the other part. That means if you have 0.5, you give 0.25 to the other side and 0.5 to the other side. So divide it unequally and then use your curve rule to connect it the way I'm doing it. Now I'll go ahead to use my straight rule to connect all the darts down to the hemline like that. Now this is our new dart, not the other one we have before. Now we're going to divide the front piece, the center piece, by 2. First off, it's more like we are dividing our nipple to nipple by 4, then divide by 2 again. So what you have in front of there is 2 inches on both sides to divide that equally. So we're dividing our initial dart by 2. So I'll have 2 inches because I had 4 inches as my nipple to nipple before. So dividing it by 2 gives me 2 inches. Now I want to tighten my waist. You can decide not to do this. I want to remove 1 inch from my waist. So on the waist area, I'm going to go out by 0.25 inches on both sides of the line and create another dart. You can decide not to do this if you cannot wear a corset that is very tight, but I want mine to be tighter. I'll do the same thing at the back so that at the end of the day, I've removed 1 inch from my waist to make it look more beautiful. I don't know, make it look more presentable anyway. If you like, you don't do this. It's very much optional. Like I said, it's very much optional. So if you like, you can just divide there by 2 and cut it open like that without creating a dart, so that you can have 3 pieces of the front pattern. But if you also want, you can also create a dart. So all these are our darts. We'll be cutting them off. I'll go ahead and label this the center front 1, center front 2, and the side front. I can also go ahead and label it 1, 2, and 3 so that we don't get so confused when we are done cutting. My corset to have that C curve, so I'm going up by 1 inch from the side and I'm connecting it like this. I want it to have that C curve. I'll do this for the front and also do this for the back pattern so that the sides will align. Now I'm going to try to make this side piece to look straight by the side. You don't want it to look that crooked. So I'm going to attach a piece of paper, hold it down with a sellotape, and try to make the line straight and cut out the other part. I've gone ahead to make a straight line for my shoulder line because that's where I'll be taking my measurements from. And please note that the full length of the back is the actual full length minus the difference between the half length of the front and the half length of the back. So what I have as the difference between the half length of my front and the half length of my back is 2 inches. So I'm going to minus this from the full length of the outfit, which is 22 inches. So I have 20 inches. I'm using 20 inches for the back pattern and not 22. So 22 is for the front and 20 is for the back for this outfit. If the difference between yours is 1.5, it means if you're using 22 inches in front, you're going to be using 20.5 at the back. So please take note of this. Just the same way I create my basic bodice pattern, I'll mark my shoulder points, my neckline, I'll go down by 1 inch and connect it, make my shoulder slant, create my armhole area. That's basically what I'll be doing. And I'm going to also impute my nipple to nipple measurement from the center back and create the same dart I created for the front. Now for my back dart, I'm taking it all the way to the chest line as opposed to what I did in the front pattern where I stopped at the bust line. I'm also going to take my 0.5 inches on both sides, connect these all the way to the chest line and to the hem line, leaving 1 inch above and 1 inch below. Now, in case you decide not to use an eyelet or loop at the back, you want to use a zip, you have to shape in the back by going in by 1/2 inch and connecting it all the way to the neck area and all the way down to the hem area. Just like we did in the front, I'm going to impute my waist divided by 4 and also measure the darts I have there and replace it back, and also divide my hip by 4 and make a mark at the hip area and mark it and connect everything with my rulers. Now to create the neckline of my back, from that chest line, I'm going to go down 0.5 inch or 1 inch, depending on how you want it to be, and use my curve rule to create a nice neckline for the back. You can try to be creative and make a different neckline for yours. Depends on how low you want the back area to be. But for me, I want it just slightly low, and this is the way it's going to look. Then I'll go ahead and do the same division I did for the front at the back. At this side area, I'm going to divide what I have there from the initial dart line. I'll divide by 2 everything I have there from the initial dart line. I'll divide everything by 2 and make a straight line. And that's where I'll be taking my 0.25 on both lines on the waist area and making a new dart. You can also decide to just draw the straight line and cut it open without creating that dart. But like I said, I've succeeded in removing 1 inch from my waistline because I created a 0.5 dart for the front and 0.5 dart for the back, and it's equal to 1 inch, and that's what I've removed from my waistline. Now to tighten the chest line of the back, I'll go out by 0.25 on both sides of that line, and I'll connect it all the way down to the waistline and also all the way down to the hem line or hip line like we did for the front pattern. Now that's our new dart. Now, because I don't want to use a zipper for this, I'm going to be going in by 1.5 inches at the center back, and I'm going to be cutting this off to create the space at the back where I'll be having my loop. I As you can see, I'm using the cross sign to notify where the loop will be sitting, and I'm going to cancel out the remaining parts and I'll be cutting it off. Now I'm labeling this the center back 1, center back 2, the side back, and I also relabel it 1, 2, 3, and I'll go ahead and cut. At this point, I remember to go up by 1 inch and make that effect I made for the front for the back also before cutting the rest. Now what I'm trying to do is to create the joining for each of the piece. I'll be using 0.75 to join all the pieces. So I'll be creating 0.75 all around all the pieces. I want to do this on the paper first so that when I put it on my fabric, I'm just going to go ahead and cut without putting the allowance again. So I've added the allowance of 0.75 to all the pieces, both for the front and for the back. I did this slowly and it came out nice, so stick to the process. Now the key things to note is that these allowances I'm adding are very big, I know, because we'll be using it as our boning casing. Do you get? We'll be using it to create our boning casing, and also I'm going to be using my main fabric as both my lining and as my main fabric because I have enough. But if you don't have enough, you use your lining to cut the lining part of this tutorial and use your main fabric for the main fabric. So see you in the next tutorial where I'll be showing you how to join everything together. Very easy, very simple. Bye. Thank you.